Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're looking at another devblog for War Thunder, and this is for the T54E1. Now on the dev server, the T54E1 was labelled as a medium tank of premium descent, which you could find in the American tree at battle rating 8.0. And because of this, it actually had quite a hefty price. It was just less than 9,000 golden eagles, which translates to around about $40. So if you're willing to pay, that much for this machine, then go ahead. Some of the characteristics that were on the dev server, obviously it has the oscillating turret, so it has 2 layers of armor on the turret, but because it's 8.0, the turret is not going to stand up to conventional rounds that it will face. Mainly stuff like the Leopard 1, being at 7.7 with its heat FS, the STB will tear it apart. The Soviet machines may bounce, some of them, such as the T54 with its, the APHE or APC-BC rounds that it has, but mainly the turret is not going to be able to withstand shots. So what you're paying for here is not armor, but definitely an upgrade in the gun. And this is seen in the history of the T54 as a whole. So when the M48 pattern came about, they decided that they wanted to create a machine which was as good as the pattern, but had a bit more oomph to it, I think is probably the best way of saying it. So, they weren't too bothered about the armor on the M48. They thought that the armor was good enough, but they wanted more firepower. So they made this design. They made a T54, they made a T54E1, and also a T54E2. Now, what are the differences between these three? So the E1, obviously, it has the autoloader, it has the revolver style magazine on it, and then the T54 standard had an autoloader but a standard turret, and then you had the T54E2 which had the standard turret but also a manual, actual loader. So 2 of them had the autoloader, the drum loader, and the last one just had a manual loader. So those are the 3 differences. This is why I'm kind of happy to see this in game, because it means that we should actually get either the T54 or the T54E2 in the main tech tree. I'm hoping personally for both. I would actually have rather liked the T54E1 not being premium, but since it is, it would be lovely to see the other 2. Now, they label it as a medium tank. I personally think it's a heavy tank. Its weight is 55 tons, but the main reason is its gun. It's a 105mm, and if you look at American doctrine, anything over a 90 should be labeled as a heavy tank. And because of this, it's a bit odd that it's labeled as a medium, but I'm sure they've done that because if you look at anything online, it says it's a medium, and also on top of this, it means that as a premium, it's a bit more enticing because it'll have less of a spawn points cost. There's also something with the preliminary patch notes where they decided to lower the SP costs of tanks across the board, so I'll do a video on that later. Have a look for that. Another thing to let you know about this machine, obviously 5-second reload. 5-second reload is going to be absolutely deadly in this. It has access to heat FS, it has access to AP, and it also has access to Sabo. Now, generally, I would say stay away from the Sabo and go the M103 method. Use AP as your main round, and if you can't pen with the AP, use the heat FS. The AP shell on these larger American machines is incredibly dangerous. It is able to one-shot machines, as it feels like, as any of you, if you've played the 103, will know. What will happen is you'll just look at a thing, as long as you hit a weak spot, or as long as the armor cannot stand, then the AP just shatters a whole tank. So that's what you want to try and do with the T54E1. At the same time, the issue with the M103 is if you don't get that kill shot or something goes wrong, maybe you ricochet, well, you got quite a long reload. The T54E1 doesn't, with its 5 seconds, so you don't have to worry about that. Think of this more as an IS-7, deal, instead of a M103 in that sense with the auto-loaded drum magazine. Now, with all of this said, a little bit more of a history of this thing, because you might think, well, how did this not get into, the military? How did the Americans not pick up the T54E1, or the T54E2, or the T54? Well, another tank came along, and they were testing it at the same time, and they thought it was much more promising. And this tank was the T95. Now, we don't actually have the T95 in-game. What we have is the T95E1, which you see pictured here. And there's a reason why it's a higher BR. Basically, its gun is just better than the T54. You can also see it has a lower profile. It's much more angled than the larger T54E1. And therefore, it filled both boxes. It wasn't just up-gunned, but it was also, in effect, up-armored. What is annoying about the T95 is the fact that this behemoth, this big boy, also has the same name. Now, I don't know why. Obviously here, this one's labeled as the T28, but this is also the T95. And I wish the Americans didn't have to cross-name stuff, just like, as we were talking about the other day, the B-26, but, well, it happened. It's just kind of annoying. The only thing that the T-54E1 is going to struggle with in battle is the speed of it, and with the speed that it will have, I mean, it should have general American medium speed, which isn't too bad, but around the 8.0 BR, we are starting to get some very quick machines. The Warrior being one of them, the BMP-2 being another, and also the TAM being at 9.0, and we're starting to get some much more faster scout vehicles, which will get into positions before the T-54E1 will be ready. Now, at 8.0, you can also run this thing with a T-114, which would be an interesting thing. It would be very much a premium lineup, but I think it would be a very good one. The Americans have a strong 8.0 in that regard. You could run it with the M103 if you felt like. If you have the M60s or M48s actually upgraded, then you can run it with that. The issue with the M48s and M60s is that it's incredibly annoying getting them upgraded, but once you get them upgraded, they're alright. And at least with the T54E1, you get it spaded when you get it, so that's always nice. Anyway, with the lineup, as I said, you can make a good lineup against it, and the thing you're going to struggle with is slightly faster tanks, and obviously stuff like the Leopard is always going to be the bane of many medium tanks from America's existence, but at least this one will do better against it with having the autoloader. It is still going to be whoever fires first wins, though, with something like a Leopard. So get used to that. It's just something that's going to happen when one machine has a crazy, penetrating shell. Your armor is never going to stand up. ATGMs also is going to be something to watch out for, as I mentioned, like the Warrior and the BMP-2. This has no, composite armor or ERA or anything like that, so once it's hit, it's going to get hit hard, especially in that turret. Its crew is also quite vulnerable. The M48 chassis is not the best, but it does have a bit of a trolley upper front plate, and I would say just shoot the turret if you can, and just go from there. The gun itself is also not the most stable on the move, but it's stable enough, I think is the best way to say. It doesn't have a stabilizer, but this 105 should be able to shoot on the move if you are, if you are making sure that you're using it effectively. And that's the best thing I can say about it. You are going to miss a lot of shots if you keep firing on the move, but at least you have the 5-second reload, right? And with that, you can just, calm down a little bit, and if you miss, it's not like you're going to die, so yeah, just make sure just to remember you have that second shot pretty quick, and don't just jay out and get annoyed. Overall, it's lovely to see this tank in game. I just wish that it was in the standard tech tree, and I hope in the next few patches we get the other two T54s in the standard tech tree, because I'd love to play them. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.